March 2014 meeting of the Solid Waste Authority will come to order. This time we'll ask our Vice Chairman, Mr. Lance Thompson, to lead us in prayer, and then Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Norfleet Jones.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for all the many rich blessings you bestowed upon us. Please forgive us for all our sins. We know there are many. Guide us and protect us and help us make good decisions for the citizens of Horry County. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Would stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You should have received a copy of the agenda. What's your disposition?
So moved.
Properly moved and second that we accept the agenda for today. All those in favor make a number by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers? Ayes have it, so ordered. Minutes from our last meeting, you should have received copies of the February 25th meeting as well as the March 12th pre-budget meeting. What's your disposition?
so moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second that we accept the minutes from both our regular meeting and our pre-budget workshop. All in favor make a number by saying aye.
Aye.
We've not received any requests for public input at this time, so we'll move forward with departmental reports and updates. Recycling and Corporate Affairs, Ms. Murphy.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
My report begins on page 33. I'm going to begin with an update on two meetings I attended during the month of March. The first will be the Recycling Market Development Advisory Council meeting, or RMDAC. That's a group primarily of business and corporate recyclers that are appointed by the state that get together to discuss recycling issues and matters that deal with statewide recycling. At that meeting, we heard presentations from a carpet manufacturer as well as representatives from the plastic industry regarding hopefully upcoming new processes that are developing for those materials. We received an update from Jana White with DHEC on the upcoming impending composting regulations, which should be in effect. If nothing happens, no one touches them as far as the State House or the Senate. They will be in effect in May and published into the registry in June, they're proposing. So those are upcoming. We also received a presentation from a representative from the South Carolina Port Authority, Inland Port, which is in Greer, South Carolina, which I told them I wanted to come see because it sounded really interesting that they have an inland port where you can save on some transportation costs through the use of rail lines. So that was one meeting I attended. On the same day, I attended the Recycling Coalition of South Carolina meeting. I serve on that board. And the primary purpose of that meeting was to do some conference planning for the inaugural conference that they will be having. Right now it's tentatively set for December 2014. So I'll keep you informed and abreast of how things are going with that. My next update will be an update on just some various events that are upcoming. Next week, myself and Mr. Bessent will be attending the Carolina Recycling Association Conference. I'll be participating in a roundtable discussion on plastic recycling in the Carolinas, hopefully to offer some information, but more so to gain some information, what's going on in that industry. In April, we will have, Earth Day is April 22nd. We'll have several events that we'll be participating in regard to Earth Day, the first one beginning on March 11th at the Carolina Forest Walmart. And then there are several others that are listed on page 34. Just my final reminder about your statement of economic interest. I hope all have already filed, but if you have not, April 15th is fast approaching, so I encourage you to do so. Our next quarterly unincorporated collection system meeting, that's the meetings, quarterly meetings that we have with the site attendants. We have those scheduled for April 15th and April 16th. By all means, if you want to come and attend and sit through a training session with our attendants, you're more than welcome. April 22nd is our April board meeting date. It's also the date of our next community open house. Again, you're all invited to attend. That will begin at 11 o'clock that day and run till about 3. And we're expecting a nice gathering that day. I want to inform you that SWANA's annual spring conference is upcoming. It will be held May 7th through the 9th at Polly's Plantation, the same location it's been held for the past several years. If any of you are interested in attending, they should be presenting information on various issues such as the composting regulation, as well as the regulation on electronic waste that the DHEC is currently working on. So if you want to attend that, please just see me or shoot me an email. Lastly, I want to just give you, last month we talked about storm debris at the recycling centers and how things were going there and how much was still on the ground, this, that, and the other. I can say there's no storm debris on the ground at any centers. Praise the Lord, because I couldn't say that yesterday. So we've talked with Mr. Gosnell. We will be returning to normal operations in the sense that we had been allowing residents who had more than the standard or the 4 cubic yards that is the limit for material during the course of one given day. We have let that lax out during this period, but we'll be picking up with our normal operations, and hopefully we won't have to deal with storm debris for a little while. I do want to take the time, the storm debris in the whole storm situation has definitely shown me the aptitude of my staff and those who work with me, and I do want to thank them publicly for their tireless efforts. I mean, we work rain, sleet, snow, almost like the post office, but they truly stepped up and went above and beyond what I would ever ask of anyone. So I want to publicly thank Mr. Rodney Cannon, Mr. William Casey, Mr. Rusty Euler, Mr. Truman DeWitt, and every recycling center attendant that we have in our system. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hilling?
Good evening to everybody. Have some project updates for our operations department. First off, our driver of the month was Mac Davis from Waste Industries. I know Mac's been over there about 9 years with them. Very friendly, cordial driver when he comes in, very cooperative with staff out there, real quiet guy. Puts safety first out there. So he was well deserving of our driver of the month award for February 2014. Next on our project list, the relocation of the grinding area. It is this close to being finished out there. They came in, Southern came in this week, Monday yesterday, and finished up a little bit of work they needed to do on the pad. They still got a little cleanup to do, and they've got some surveying, and we've got final inspection out there. Hopefully within 2 weeks, we're going to be signed off out there, and that'll be turned over to us. But it's so close. They did come in, get their pad touched. It looks like a pad now, what we expected from them out there. So we're pleased with that. Again, hopefully about 2 weeks, we'll get our pad and have our new grinding area out there. The closure of the saddle area and a new access road, pretty much 99% of the backfill has been put in on the access road. They did start yesterday putting their stone out there. Still got a ways to go. When the board report was turned in, I think April 9th was sort of the substantial completion date, but since then we've had more crummy weather, rain and all that, so that's pushed it out. we're probably somewhere around April 15th. We're very hopeful, because they still got to do phase 2 of the saddle area closure. It's a small little road that we utilize right now. We're hopeful maybe by the end of April, everything will be done and that project will be complete. But weather has just been rough on that project right there with so much hauling they had to do, and they're getting in and out of their pit down there, and as much as they've had to haul in. So we're real close on that one. Hopefully, like I said, about the end of April, that project will be done, and we'll have us a new access road out there. And the saddle area is looking good out there. It's pretty well ready except for that little piece. So kind of going from that project, we did have our pre-bid last week for the 30-acre closure sell out there. We had about 10 or so contractors show up. We had some from out of town, and we still had our local group come in. The bids will be turned in April 10th. And just want to invite any of y'all, if you want to come out, I think Mr. Campbell did, but if any of the board wants to come out and go out and see exactly where the 30 acres is, come on out. Be glad to take you out there and kind of show you what we're going to be doing. If you want to look at any of the plans, you know, that make you comfortable with what we're doing out there. But hopefully we'll come back. Our plan is to come back next board meeting with a recommendation of who the selected contractor will be. And then 14 days after that, we anticipate King being done, and then we get going with the 30 acres out there. But we welcome you to come out and take you out there and show you, you know, kind of what's going to be going on out there.
What's the bid date on that?
April 10th. I believe it's 2 p.m. the bids to be turned in.
When did you say that you thought you would, your target date for recommending a contractor?
Next board meeting. Is it April 22nd? I think that's the next board meeting.
Yeah.
And that's when we're going to bring you a recommendation who the selected contractor would be.
Right. And I think you said right now the estimated project cost is in the $7 million range.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, no, we're fine. Ms. Bidding?
Good evening. The financial reports begin on page 50. That's our summary page. And through 8 months, we should be at about 66.64% of budget. So in looking about in the middle of the page, you'll see where we've got the tipping fees listed there. And solid waste is currently at 67.82% of budget. Mixed construction is at 63.48%. And of course, our yard waste is at 72% of budget. Yard waste being up because that also includes the storm debris that we received this month. So that's why that's got that up. So our solid waste is up a little bit over budget. Mixed construction is below budget. Turn to page 52 is our income statement. For the month, we were at a negative $119,000. I think with the storm and everything, our sales were down a little bit this month. I think you'll see an increase hopefully in March. With that, like I said, February was just kind of a rough month with us. But our revenue is at 60.91% of budget, and our expenses are at 58.22%. So of course, our expenses are staying below revenue, but they're both below budget. Like I said, they should be at about 66% of budget. Page 53 and 54 kind of gives you a breakout of what the revenue and the expenses are to kind of see you know, where we are. Like I said, our overall tipping fees are at 66.9% of budget. So the tipping fees are right on budget, and our recyclable sales are below at 59.74% of budget. And the same thing with the expenses. Like I said, you can kind of see, you know, we're running at about 58.22% of budget, so we are staying below. The other thing I was going to point out to you was just on page 57 was the C&D processing facility. They were a little bit down this month. I only had about 800 tons over there this month. I feel like I said, talking with Bill, we feel like because of the storm, there just wasn't as much material coming in. Any questions on those reports? I've got one other spreadsheet I want to hand out. We had mentioned at the pre-budget workshop about the fact that we are monitoring the C&D material, and that, we had a reduction we had seen the first week of March. I've since done, 2 more weeks, and so I wanted to give you at least an update on where it is. We still are seeing a reduction. We are 25% less than where we were last year this time. So I want to hand this out to you so that you have this information to kind of take a look at.
Any more? Got another copy of it, Jan? It's coming this way. Thank you, ma'am.
Does anybody have any questions on that spreadsheet?
How do you read this? What does it tell us?
Okay, if you look at the first column, under FY 14, I have the number of trucks, the number of loads that came in each day, and the next to that is the tonnage for each day. And I'm comparing that to the previous year, which is FY 13, the same thing, the number of trucks that came in each day, as well as the total tons that came in each day. And then what I do at the very bottom is I'm totaling it up. In FY 14, so far, for the first 3 weeks of March, we had 1,734 loads. And in FY 13, we had 2,045 loads. In FY 14, we've had 5,102.94 tons. And in FY 13, we had 6,839.42 tons. We're comparing the same time period from last year to this year. So we've got a deficit of 1,736.48 tons. And when we calculate that out based on our tipping fee, we have loss of revenue currently of $46,016.72 based on a comparison to last year.
So the take back is that for the first 3 weeks of March, we're down $46,000 on C&D,
Yes, sir, as compared to last year, that's correct.
going straight to the hill, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
And the factory would be in another report.
No, sir, this includes both.
Okay. So far, the take back is so far the effect of the C&D carve out is, based on this time period, is 25% decrease.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. I forgot I know this is such a small window, it's hard to draw conclusions from it, but we were projecting,
I think we said we're like around 30%. We said 30,000 tons.
right, 35, but then it got knocked back to 30,
Right,
over 90, which would be about a third.
yes, sir.
Okay, so we're fairly close to what the
Yes, sir,
predictions were so far.
so far. And I'm gonna continue to monitor this so that next month I can give you an updated one as well through the rest of March and what we see so far in April. We're continuing to watch this on a weekly basis, so that way we're not running into any surprises at the end of the year.
And the earlier report where you spoke about weather, that was for the months of February.
Yes, sir, that was February. Right,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I'd like to say too that the new landfill in Britton's Neck has got a sign up that says they're open for business. So John Taylor's landfill is now open.
That makes 3 if you count the,
4 if you count Quinby.
5, 4, right. That was PD Environmental and Marion County and, what is they called? Easy Dump, is that right?
Sandland.
Sandland
And
and
John Taylor.
got his open.
What was our projection per ton that we thought gonna be in a year's time, that we're gonna lose?
For the current year, for next year?
For the current, for the
For the current
next
year,
year?
for the current year we're in, I think we had projected around 472,000 this year, but for next year, we were looking at about 927,000.
At the average, we're going, now, if this stays, if the average stays as it is, we won't be far off that, because this average comes up just right at 798,000.
Yes, sir.
How did you get that number?
If you look at, if you take 3 weeks, look at the difference in take an average of 3 weeks and get an average per week and multiply it by 52,
Right.
then you get approximately $797,610,
790?
797,610, based on the present average. Because right now, we're averaging a little over $15,000 $15,000 a week.
So our projections are closer to the trend line that was projected.
Right.
That's fairly good ballparking, I would say, so far.
Yeah, right now, we are averaging 15,338.7 tons of dollars a week. $15,338.67 a week. That's what we're losing.
Yeah. Danny, do you think there'll be any extenuating circumstances up or down based on the other 49 weeks? I mean, you think it's gonna get worse or better?
I think the only way it's not going to 378 if that bridge falls in across the river. We were down there last week, saw 3 tractor trailers from the county in the area. They haven't been coming here. So I think it's, I think we're gonna be close to, our estimate. I mean,
Mr. Taylor's landfill hasn't accepted anything yet. I mean, it just opened, correct?
Yeah, I talked to him this morning.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
and, don't know what's gone in there this week.
Well, he just opened it the last day or two. I
Yeah,
mean,
Monday, I think. Sign went up last week, and, so he's open. I just don't know if he's taking anything yet.
Is he, well, I guess you answered this question. He says anyway that he's ready according to standards, he's ready to receive material and.
Yeah, the scale house is there, scales are in. As I understand it, he's hired a manager. And I talked to him this morning and, welcomed him to the community and to the business. And,
Did you ask him what he's charging?
I did.
What did he say?
He said he was working on that. I believe was his, answer. So we'll just,
What do you think the others are charging?
we think the other one's probably 16.
All three of them, or just?
No, the one, one in Marion County is not, what's he charging Marion County? Mike?
2116, Mr. Taylor says he's working on it, and PD Environmental, you know what they're charging? They're a little longer haul over there.
But we have seen that they will drive past our gate for a lesser price. Now, we had heard that they wouldn't do that. I saw it last week myself, and these tonnages indicates that. So,
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, did I understand you to say Taylor has or has not accepted his first load?
last week, he hadn't, but the sign was up that, they were taking material based on,
By appointment. I knew all that, but his we don't know whether his liability started or not.
No.
When he takes that first load, the game begins.
yeah,
Until he does, he can do whatever he pleases.
well,
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
He's ordered some more equipment for the landfill. He's ordered a compactor.
It makes sense. That new track is sitting there, everything's in place. We'll just see. Well, if we're running at a third now, that means that 2/3 is still coming here so far. That's one way to look at it, yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, that's both sides of the same coin. I mean, we predicted about a third or so it would go out and 2/3 would stay. So far, so good. But we'll see, that could go the other way, remains to be seen. And as I said, we hope we're wrong. We hope we're terribly wrong on the 30%, but we'll soon see.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Mr. Besant?
Oh, that was low. Let's get it up here. Jan didn't hear that. I just made my thing. There you go. The C&D Recycling Incentive Program, we still have one person anticipating that being Lee Disposal. They carried in their facility about 760 tons last month. They recycled 603 tons, and they got an incentive here at the landfill for 277 tons, which equated to $1,087 that they got in landfill credits. Year to date, they have took about 5,400 tons in to their facility. They've took in about 1,992 tons of concrete, 3,828 tons that they have recycled. Without concrete, they've recycled 1,836 tons, or 53%. They are on track to meet their 75% goal for year to date when you look at the overall number. So they'll be close to it. They started picking up in the 80s and 79. They had one low month. They currently have a lot of wood waste on site that they've pulled out. They had a contractor that was taking it, and he's no longer taking it, so now they're trying to find a location for it. He has indicated that he'll be bringing that wood waste here. So we do have that coming most likely, which will increase that number dramatically by base what he's got on his site, because he can't account for it until he leaves the site. When it leaves the site, he can count it for it as it recycled if it goes somewhere that's recycled. So that's going to run his number up before the end of the period. He's received about $7,900 in credits year to date. All of our incentive programs, we've gave our customers back savings of about $203,000, with $152,739 being an MSW incentive. C&D recycling incentive for the factories, about 42,000 people going over there that they've received. And the designated facility of Lee Disposal received 79 for a total of 203,000. Any questions on those two things?
Yes.
The C&D recycling for his February, is that the same as it was last February?
I have not checked it against last February, but I can.
Okay, I'd like to know if that was the same as he brought in last February.
A little closer to your mic, please, Pam.
Oh, sorry. I'd like to know if it was last February. The other thing, you said it was on track to meet his 75%
Yes, ma'am.
that DHEC requires
Yes, ma'am.
for him to operate here. I'm assuming we didn't get anything from the other gentleman that we usually get?
No, ma'am. Since when the flow control happened, we can no longer require reports from them. They did have to submit a report to DHEC as of December the 31st of what their prior 12 months recycling was in order to meet those goals.
Do we know what that is?
No, ma'am.
I'd like to know.
We'll have to FOI to request a DHEC, but I'll be glad to get that done.
Thank you.
Okay. Legislative update.
give you an idea of what's going on in our big capital. The Senate Bill S-203, which is the other flow control bill, is still sitting in Senate Medical Affairs. It's not moved. And the other flow control ordinance that's sitting in the Senate, there's really been not much interest in it at the Senate. It's just sitting there. They trying to determine now what they'll call up for special order. There isn't any indication that they'll bring that bill up, the House bill, up for special order, but it is still sitting there for special order. The House has taken the week of April 14th off for 2 weeks, and then when they come back, they'll be facing the budget process. So we think that the flow control stuff will pretty much stay as it is now, unless something starts coming through the Medical Affairs Committee or something that we're not aware of that's going on. But our lobbyists are saying everything looks like it's pretty good currently. Any questions on that? I've got one other thing, and I think Cecil gave y'all out a recommendation copy. We have two things that's coming up in the FY15 budget period. One of them is we have, as of September, we're required by the technical committee recommended that the solid waste management plan be updated every 3 years. The disaster debris plan has not been updated since 2008. So we need to get some committees together to start that process of getting the disaster debris plan updated. And we need to make sure we meet all the FEMA regulations so that the reimbursement process, that we get maximized reimbursement in case of FEMA reimbursement. So normally we hire an outside consulting firm to come in to make sure that all those regulations are in there, and we crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's in order for the cities and the counties to get a maximum amount of reimbursement through assistance of FEMA in the event of a storm. We have asked the EOC, Randy Webster, to help take a lead in this process this year. When the disaster debris plan started, there was no EOC, not to the way it is today. And the Solid Waste Authority picked that up and started doing the plan in order for Horry County to have one. We've done it in the past, and we are going to ask the county to be involved deeply so that we'll make sure that we don't conflict with what the EOC is trying to do. We want it to be a hand-in-hand type thing, and we think they need to be it, and we'll be doing that and getting our consultants on board in order to get that done with the board's approval. We do have $20,000 set aside in the consulting fee money for next year to do that, but we need to start getting the committees set up and get everything done, and we want to be prepared to start that July 1. We would hope to get those two things done, especially the debris plan done no later than the end of July, 1st of August, in order before the hurricane season comes, to make sure, because regulations change monthly with FEMA. And all those things need to get done. Every time they have a storm, they make a change. So we need to definitely look at that, and the solid waste management plan is required to be changed. It is important that that document be correct, as Ms. Britton can attest to. That thing is scrutinized more times in more ways, and it means so much, has meant so much in the past several years with all the lawsuits and the way it was written. And we need to try to make sure we still comply with all the laws and the legal aspects of that thing. So that's the reason we hire a consultant to do that. And we're asking for the board to approve for us to move forward with putting those committees together. We won't start them to July 1 because we don't have the money in the budget till July 1, and y'all may not approve it as part of the budget. So we can get the people together, and hopefully y'all approve it in our consulting budget for us to have July 1.
I move that we accept staff's recommendation.
I second.
Can I ask a question first, please?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question too. Go ahead.
I know that public safety does disaster debris and works with all of that. Are we going to be duplicating anything that they're doing already?
The disaster debris plan is for all of Horry County, and the cities are part of that plan because they do the contractors. Public safety, or EOC, Economic is the one that's gonna be a part of help drafting this. They do not have a disaster debris plan. They rely on our plan.
They're getting ready to have one after July.
I was just wondering, since they do that too, if we couldn't partner with them and share the expense and whatever with them.
Well, we don't know if the county will agree to share the expense, but we definitely want them a part of the thing this time because we want to make sure that we're not conflicting with other plans that they have in place.
Well, that's true. We don't need to be doing that.
Uh,
Thank
we're talking about two different, consulting contracts.
Yes, sir.
One for, an allowance of 20 and another for 15. Speaking to the 21, is that gonna be an competitive RFP, RFQ, or have you already picked the guy out?
I've been here since 2008, and we've not put those professional services out because it's so selective in the past. Of course, that's Mr. Knight's call, but it makes it tough to pick somebody that's familiar with the area and the process and all of our quirks in Horry County. By an RFP, we can, but it would draw the process out. In the past, we've not, but we could.
So we'll be voting on a sole source, non-competitive bid if we,
Well, I mean, we could get pricing and stuff like that, but it'll be up to the purchasing department following the guidelines. I don't know if it'll be sole source, but professional services up under our policy is not required to be bid up under the solid waste, the board's policies, manual policy.
I hear what you're saying, but it seems and I don't know what Danny and you know, but on the audit, where the guy's been doing it for 10 years for $16,000, we went through a rather extensive RFP, RFQ. On this one for 20,000, we already have a man picked out, Danny, is that it?
Not necessarily, but the storm debris is somewhat time sensitive. We're trying to get this thing done kind of before the real hurricane season comes in. And probably gonna look at utilizing the guy that we have utilized the last time and we've been working with to go ahead and get this one done pretty quick.
He works with the county on their stuff. Wayne Floyd.
Wayne Floyd.
Yeah, he was in the EOC. He worked with the county on the last storm.
In other words, it's just someone that we've used in the past for this, and he's familiar with that.
Well, he actually worked with a company called Phillips and Jordan for years and years and years, for what I know of. And then he worked for another disaster debris company. He helped us, he consulted us to pick out our contractors, to go through the bid process with the contractors that we chose, help us evaluate them because of his knowledge of dealing with them, those companies. He came up with a scoring process for them. And he works with, I don't know who the company is for the county now, Danny. He does a consulting work with them and subcontracting with them, but he owns his own company.
Well, you can give me the name of his company later.
I don't know the name of it, but I can get it.
That's what I mean. And again, since we're trying to partner up with the county and the county's doing disaster stormwater planning, you think there's any possibility that we could say?
In sitting down and talking with the county, Mr. Gray, they recommended this guy. They won't
I
use
mean,
this guy.
on the payment part, I mean, why would we have to pay him 20 grand and then they're gonna pay him another amount of money?
We've been paying it for the last 13 years. I don't think the county's gonna all of a sudden pick up a $15,000 tab.
I think it's confused. The county is not paying him to do this plan too. Right now, we're the ones that would be paying
Yeah.
the ticket. Now, once we get closer to sitting down and negotiating, I don't have a problem asking that question. Y'all willing to pay a portion of it?
Well, I think we all know what the answer's gonna be. In other words, the work he's doing for the county is not
associated with this at all.
So he's doing some other kind of plan with them?
Well, he works for their, where they get food in and water trucks, and they have a company that does all that for them. It was PBS and J at one time, and I think they still use that company, and that company comes in and he subcontracts with that company in the event of storms.
You mean Post Buckley, Hugh and Jernigan?
Yeah.
They're still around?
He doesn't actually employed by them, but they hire him, in like the ice storm, they hired him to come sit in the EOC center on their behalf.
The work that he does for the county is different.
Totally
like
different.
Food stocks and so forth and so on.
Right.
Whereas this is getting rid of trash.
Debris.
Debris.
So actually, it really doesn't have anything to do with their plan. What we have to do is what we're doing with our trash, and it works with that.
Yeah, it works with the debris plan from the county. What I want to make sure is that this plan doesn't conflict with the county's separate type plans that they have for food and other things to make sure that they're part of it, of that plan.
Okay, thank you.
And we've paid for it since the conception of it every year, since 2001, and done the disaster debris plan. The only difference this time is we've asked EOC, Emergency Operations Center, Randy Webster, to be intimately involved in developing the revised plan.
Well, if it's our plan, I can understand us paying for it. Just because we did pay for it doesn't mean I think that's a good reason to keep it up. Thank you.
I think basically, Danny and Mike, if I understand it, this fellow, Wayne Floyd, has worked with us for a number of years. You got a time constraint that you're working with. He's worked satisfactorily in the past. You feel comfortable with the money he's charged in the past has been reasonable, and you more or less want to continue with that.
And we'll negotiate that price. Pretty tough.
Yeah, you're known to be a tough negotiator. Okay, that answers that question. The other one is that, of course, Art Braswell, we all know him when he was working for DHEC, and then since he hung out his own shingle. And you think he would charge about the same thing as he did last year?
Well, Art won't be doing it this year since he's working with Charleston County. So we don't know who's going to do that one yet. We're going to have to figure out who that one will be.
Braswell.
But that's what he charged last time, so that's what we put in the budget this time.
So you'll be getting somebody else?
Yes, sir.
Is that gonna be RFP or RFQ or just, or you already got it? It's got $15,000 or less.
No, that's what it cost in 2011. We expect it to be the same, but we're not saying definitely it's gonna be the same.
I understand. But,
We will probably take, some type, resumes or something, some way on who'd be interested, where they worked before, what they've done, what kind of plans they have worked. I think Vance did it one year for us. Art's done it.
Both times we checked prices on how much Art was and how much Vance was the last time. There are only two people I know of in North and South Carolina that does it, that's very good and familiar with our system. And we checked prices, and Art was cheaper last time. So that's why we chose Art. So,
well, what I hear you saying is that there'll be some form of competition, negotiation, trying to get the best for your money. May not be as formal as some of the stuff that Bill's doing, but
Yeah, we probably check, while with Paulie's and with different firms down there. That's kind of how we found, and did the
Mike Lloyd thing.
yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
the solid waste plan is probably the most important. Both of these plans are important because if they're not right on the debris plan, you won't get a good return for the debris, and the solid waste management plan is important because of the legal aspect.
I understand.
Any other comments or questions on the motion been made? How do you want to vote? All in favor, make a note by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposes? Ayes have it, so ordered. Mr. Knight?
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna pass out some information. The first memo to the board is some recommended things that we can look at for the budget process. The first bullet is 1% reduction in department budgets for $54,000, and we recommend this would go into the contingency. We're gonna recommend eliminating the recycling incentive program. I think Mr. Long was right when we set this thing up. It was set up to help the companies that were involved in recycling when flow control came in. So we developed this incentive program to help along. Now, the C&D's gone, that's over. So we don't see any reason for this incentive. The big incentive program, we'd recommend freezing it. Review it in 6 months. And if this money is still, we're losing money like we think we're going to, then we very well may have to stop that incentive program, but that's something we can look at 6 months into the budget.
When you say freeze it, you mean not
Take any,
continue,
no,
discontinue right
keep
now?
people, keep people on it that's on it now.
Okay,
Keep it as it is today.
right.
Don't add any more companies to it or any other organization.
Okay.
Keep it budgeted as it is today.
That's the one that the cities participate in?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that, I'm sorry, I thought you were through.
And going to what Lance said, you're not cutting them off. You just saying we're not adding any more.
Not adding any more.
Is the 6 months, will that be when the contract is ended? Do we have contracts
ma'am.
with them?
Through the process of when we took this to the county, there's a way that the contract can be ended. And in talking with Ruth, she said it's got to be a very good reason. You just can't say one morning, we're gonna do away with this program. And I think if we show where we're losing, all this money, I think it would be a reason to do that. But I think that'll give us 6 months into the process to see exactly where we stand with our budget. And this is right much money that we're offering as an incentive to get people to recycle. But we'll just have to see where it takes us.
I forgot that number right now. It's,
Mike just showed it to you.
right. It's, I know it was a big chunk, but what was it, Mike, on an annualized basis? What do you have with that?
MSW is $152,739.
That's currently, it's about $300,000 a year is what we got budgeted for.
So we're anticipating that for FY15, we would,
Continue to pay that.
300,000, we would have that revenue loss, so to speak, or we would pay that out in dividends, however you want to look at it. 300,000, just wouldn't increase it.
That's-
Is anybody beating on the door? I mean, I thought everybody was about in there.
We haven't had any offers lately.
No, I mean, anybody want to get in?
We haven't had any offers lately, no, sir.
Okay.
But there's no money budgeted for anyone else. And with the budget like it is, it'd be my recommendation to keep it like it is.
I hear you.
Next bullet, eliminate the addition to the store.
put it back in the mother account, and hold on to it through the course of next year to see what happens. And the last bullet, will establish new operation guidelines for the store.
What does that mean?
That means next year's split will be different.
We'll get more money out of it, or,
We can,
I mean, I'm sure we're not gonna give them any more money, or anybody, it's not just them. In other words, you wanna see if you can figure out a way to increase our take from the
yes,
store.
sir. And there's a couple of ways we can do that. And we'll certainly talk about it in the budget hearing, but, there's not but one way to do it and get away from the idea that we're paying some way part of those salaries. There's a way that we can do it, but we don't gain as much income if we go that route. But we'll have that in the budget hearing where we can talk about that. The other handout is some of the things that was in the March 12th minutes. I certainly want to talk about some of those at the budget workshop, because there was some statements made that I don't want to kind of come back and take, be taken as fact. And I've highlighted some of them, and we'll certainly be able to talk about some of those at the budget workshop. We won't have to talk about those now. Okay, the next issue I'd like to talk about is once we had this March 12th budget meeting, on March the 13th, we met with the Sun News here, kind of at his request, to talk about the budget and the cuts and what the cuts really meant. And March 14th, there was an article in the Sun News, and that's on page 88 in your back of your miscellaneous tab. There's a copy of that article. And then council had a workshop the 17th, and they were just as mad as fire at that workshop about us. So March the 18th, I went to Myrtle Beach and sat down with Chairman Lazarus and talked to him about what they were mad about. Some of the things they were upset about is we had set this whole budget process on one week of record keeping. They were mad because we had called the Sun News out here to give them this information about this article. And the article is pretty clear. I really don't see a whole lot of that wasn't discussed openly in that article. So all I'm saying is we got to be very careful on what we talk to council and tell them, because they were told that the Sun News was not at this budget meeting. And they were. Sun News was here. He called me the next day and asked to talk about these cuts. I said, the best thing you can do is come out here and sit down and talk with Jan face to face, where you get a clear understanding of what these cuts mean. So it's hard to keep peace in the family
if information getting downtown that's not really factual. So I'm just pleading with you, if you talk with them, have our facts right. I think they're okay now, some of them. Mark seemed to think everything was okay about it. But it's kind of tough facing that. It's real tough. So just be careful. And I think that's all I have, preacher. But if there's any questions about the budget, those handouts, give us a call. We think that covers some of the main issues that we discussed at the workshop.
So I guess we're not supposed to discuss the issues in workshop.
Yes, we're gonna have to do that. We'll have to discuss issues, and we're gonna, and nothing, I don't think anything was discussed, anything terribly bad. It was just, you know, and I think some of them were upset that we based it on 1 week's event, but we've been planning for this thing for 3 years. I mean, this budget we're in today, if you'll remember, the cut sheet that we've been talking about for 2-3 years.
3 years.
Getting ready with that cut sheet, if in fact it happened, and we figured it was gonna happen at the Capitol, if it happened, then that would be our way of cutting. We talked about it a long time. Last year in the budget workshop, Mr. Rayall was here, and nobody seemed to think that anything was going to happen where we would lose. But it's a fact.
Yes, ma'am.
On a positive note, we didn't lose at Columbia with MSW and the whole flow control. But being from a business background, we of course do not project our budget on a week. But I find it a necessity on a weekly or a monthly basis to make decisions that concern other people, to be as well informed as possible. So I would like for you to continue looking at that from all aspects. One day, heaven forbid, if the Capitol decides we don't have flow control, we may have to do the same thing with MSW. But I would always like to be prepared, and I appreciate the fact that you are. Thank you.
Well, we will continue. We'll continue to call it like it is. And I want you to think of something else also. We won't debate it. But there's a reason that building over there at the store hasn't been started. And I want you to really think about that, because we have trying our best to get ready for this day. So we're not as hard-headed sometimes as everybody kind of thinks we are, and we just, my God, we'll show you. The budget means, I mean, it means everything. I'm calling on the past. I always recommended a tax increase. Didn't have a problem doing that. Didn't get it very often. This year is look like we've got it covered.
But next year, it's going to be the hard nut to crack. Because next year, you won't have these same 5 positions that you can utilize that savings. So next year is very well, I'll be looking at probably recommending a tip and fee increase. I don't much see any way around it unless something happens through the course of getting this budget passed and through the course of operation in year 15. So we'll see.
Are we still losing $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year on the factory?
I think the information that Mike gave you, we really wasn't losing money if you take into effect landfill saving space and that, the whole picture.
I mean, just cash on cash, operation from day to day within a given year is, I understand that long range, where you save, you can run the numbers out and say, well, we saved this amount of money, but in operations, and we gained this much in future landfill space, but you could say the same thing about the C&D that's going out of the county. I'm just talking about year on year, was my question. I think, Mike, in our several conversations, it's either been 400 and some thousand cash on cash in a given year, or 600,000, somewhere in that range. I think that that's something that we might take into consideration as we go forward.
Be fine?
Committee
Mr. Chair,
reports?
Yes. We'll discuss that later in the budget hearing, right?
Yeah, we'll discuss all these items in the budget workshop. Are there any committee reports? Okay, thank you. Land use recommendation regarding the Green Sea property?
Yeah, you have in your report right there, and also we've got the picture of the Green Sea property up here on the projector. Just want to review some proposed maintenance improvements we need to do at the Green Sea property. You can see we've got a 268 track piece of property here. It's sort of divided by Highway 33. The northern section is currently, we're under contract with a farmer out there who's done just one heck of a job keeping the place up. He does his farming, he's maintained the ditches, just an exceptional job. He keeps everything draining real good, and we've been real pleased. We put that out for bid 2 years ago. He offered the highest income to us, so we went with him, but he's done a really great job.
What is that amount that he's paying?
It's about $10,000 a year.
Okay, thank you.
That he's paying us. It's $85 an acre for the farmable land and $10 an acre for the non-farmable. He's under contract for the whole property.
And he maintains everything?
Right.
Okay.
Somewhat down on the southern part. He does some of the ditch work down there, but what I want to talk about is further work that we need to do to improve the property out there. We want to get it more readily available for storm debris if we need to get in there. Want to be proactive with the last, the ice storm we had. We didn't know if we were going to have it. In his contract, 48 hours after we get an event, we can take that back over. But we want to get that southern portion in good shape down there, where if we need that, we can get in there right away. Things that we want to do up there is on that southern portion, if you see right there kind of where it goes down the middle, we want to construct that all-weather road right there. That gives access to get pretty much all the way around the property, and also it'll be some, where they can get to either side of it right here. So plus get to the rear of the property. Also, we want to heavily thin these areas all up in here with some pine, cut that down, thin it out, and then you can see up here is go here and clear cut this area. The reason we want to clear cut that, when we get someone in there to do it, that's really good timber in there, and it'll give them more incentive to come in there and be more willing to do that southern part of it down there to thin that out. And what we'd like to do is, we've talked with the Brigman Company. He's one of our property consultants, and work with him. They're real familiar with the loggers and that kind of thing, and get with them, and they would put it out for bid and get the best return for the Solid Waste Authority for going in there chipping and clear cutting that area up there. It would be no outgoing cash for the Solid Waste Authority. We wouldn't have to write any checks. They work off a percentage of what the timbering would be. So we'd like to set up an agreement with them. And the last thing, we've met with Tom Garrigan with Horry County Stormwater, and you can see the yellow boundary around there on the southern end and the northern end. It's about 8,400 linear feet. And get an easement set up with them where they come in and maintain the ditches. And that would make sure we'd have real good drainage up there. We wouldn't have any backups out there, and getting in there and doing the thinning and timbering and the clear cutting. And then that property would really be ready for us in the event that we had a storm out there.
And that work's paid for out of the stormwater fees? Yeah.
So they would handle that. So we have 3 recommendations for your consideration. The first one is Board of Directors approves staff's recommendation to grant the Executive Director approval to enter an agreement with the Brigman Company to provide maintenance improvements to the Green Sea property. That's to work with them, get an agreement with them. They'll put the bids out and get a timber company to come in there. They will oversee the whole project out there. So again, they work off a percentage of the timbering income that comes in, so we would not have any outgoing cash in that.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead, recommendation 2. We'll come back to them. Go ahead, tell us what all your recommendations are.
Okay, that's the second one on your sheet right there. We have withdrawn. We're not able at this time to work out something with the farmer up there on this 31 acres right there. We're not able to work out anything with him. It was going to be quite expensive for him, so we're not going to do that one right now. And the third recommendation is the Board of Directors approves staff's recommendation to give the Executive Director authority to enter into a drainage easement with Horry County Stormwater to maintain approximately 8,400 linear feet of ditches along the southern and northernmost boundary, which will assist with the overall maintenance of the Green Sea property.
Basically, what you're doing, giving the county an easement on those ditches so they can get in there and work. Basically, what that's all about.
Okay. All right, any questions for Mr. Hilling on recommendation 1? Yes, Pam?
Having worked with timber, my father had a timber company. And I guess just as taking a bid or having a timber person come in there and do this on a percentage, and I'll give you, for instance, I had a piece of property and I have timber property as well, and thin it and work it from that aspect. I've had that happen, and I've had people on one small piece offer me as little as $1,300, and the highest bid got to $13,000. And then the one at $13,000, what I did instead of taking a check was have them cut the timber and take it by the load and count it, and I ended up getting around $28,000. And the low bid was $1,500, so there's a huge difference in timber and how it's done. I would not suggest you put it up for bid or pay a man a percentage. There are lumber companies that will come and negotiate with you to do that, buy the load, buy the particular tree, and you count the loads, and I can assure you, you'll get a whole lot more money.
Let me say, the Brigman Company is not a timber company. They don't cut trees.
Right.
They work with us on our delineations, on our wetlands. They do all that work. And basically what their contract, they get paid a percentage
I know.
of what's cut. And it's for sure, we'll be counting the loads, just like we did over here on the 1187.
Why would we pay them a percentage?
Well, to oversee the work that's done out there, I mean, they will make sure that everything is done properly as far as from a property consultant standpoint. They'll be out there at the job. We did the same thing when we cut out in the back here, tracks D&E. We made sure every ticket was turned into us with the weights and all. So, we'll be expecting the same thing.
Right. The last time I thinned property, I had a contract with the man that took the timber out. He built the road, he maintained what was in there in the ditches. He did not scar any other trees, and he didn't leave a limb lying there. So you can have a contract and make them live up to that.
Mr. Jones?
What is the percentage?
Don't know, they haven't gave us a proposal yet on that.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Mr.
We could do the proposal a little bit and doing it by the load count though, right? Sure. Could we not? Or you just,
I'm not really an expert on
You do it by the load.
timbering out there, so
What you
I can't answer that
Yeah.
one.
What you're gonna have to do is put together a proposal, bid it out, cover everything from leaving a limb, taking bids, and then you sure enough, got to have 2 or 3 staff members up there, instead of this company being there and us one person up there counting loads or taking up receipts like we've done in the 1187 a couple of times, and on the back side back here, the last time we did that. But it's just a different concept.
Other questions, comments?
On 4, the stormwater management, the 8,400 linear feet of ditches, I'm assuming we're signing that property over to the county?
No.
We are not?
Be giving them an easement on
Yeah,
that
that-
property.
Okay. How many acres would that add up to be?
I don't know. We haven't added that up. We're the one getting the deal.
Okay. As much stormwater fees as I saw we were paying in our budget, I'm not sure they can do enough work to give me a deal.
Well, I didn't say we was gonna break even,
Okay.
but them
That's not a
taking the
deal if I'm
easement,
losing money.
cleaning the ditches, I mean, was it 20-foot easement through, Stephanie?
25.
25-foot through. It's gotta be cleared, stumped, and dug, cleaned out, and maintained. Not only will it help our piece of property, it'll help the adjoining property owners also.
Mr. Chairman, it's just an easement though, is all we were given. I mean, yeah.
I have personal awareness of the work that the county does. It's outstanding, and it's as you said it was. We would be the ones getting the deal if all you have to give up is easement, and you get the rest of your property drained for where you can make use of it or minimize your damages. I mean, these people do good work. Not like some of them old dragline people from days gone by.
And I guess just another question is a curiosity. Why would the farmer pay $10 an acre for non-farmable land?
That's what, yeah, that's what we put into the bid 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. And is $85 the going rate?
He was the only one that actually.
He was the only one that bid.
No, we had 3 bids, but he was the only one that agreed to pay $10 a ton for, or $10 an
Acre.
acre for the remaining part of tonnage on.
Yeah.
That's where he shoots his deer.
Oh, so he gets to hunt the land?
No, he does not. He asked about that, but we don't allow any hunting on our properties.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, I was wondering, I lease farmland and I get $110 an acre. Is 85 a going rate here?
I like it enough.
When we bid it out, that's,
What it was?
he had the best overall price of anybody and what he offered to do for us. Because we estimated it was anywhere from about 12 to 1,500 every time we made a trip to go up there to mow, you know, just the maintenance we have to do. And with the farmer up there, that's pretty well, we don't have to go up there on that part there.
Okay.
And so we're hopeful what we're doing on this southern part, you know, we'll get this in such good shape, we don't have to go up there. It's such a long trip to mobilize for us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, recommendation 1, what's your disposition? Is there a motion?
Move, we accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Probably moved in second that we accept the recommendation that we give the board, the executive director and the staff authority to come up with an agreement with the Brigman Company, provide maintenance improvements to the Green Sea property. Comes to the question, prepared to vote. All in favor, make it known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Ayes have it. Recommendation 3, regarding the drainage easement with the county, what's your disposition?
So moved.
Second.
Probably moved in second that we provide the staff with the, whatever they need to come up with the agreement with the county in reference to that. Comes to the question, prepared to vote. All in favor, make it known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, same sign. Ayes have it, so ordered. And you said recommendation 2 was on hold, right?
We withdrew it, yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
And this bid comes up in 3 years, doesn't it, Bill?
Yes.
Rebid the
The
farmland?
bid will come up in April of 17 for the whole property again.
Time will tell if prices have gone up.
Okay, next item on the agenda is roundtable discussion. Is there any?
What is the date of that? My next appearance, I mean, that budget, I want to make sure that I'm going to be here.
April 8th.
1 o'clock, April 8th. Thank you.
What are we looking at time-wise? 1 to what? Are we gonna be? With these other items on the agenda, do we need to change the time to earlier in the day or something, or?
We're gonna do lunch at 12:30, so we can start the meeting right at 1, and hopefully get out sometime that afternoon.
By dark.
That up to the board.
Tuesday.
April 8th, y'all doing lunch?
Yes, sir, 12:30.
Lunch at 12:30? And, hopefully we'll be out of here by 5 o'clock.
How long is the belt line going to be?
Going to be lunch if we have any hot dogs left over tonight.
Come on, now.
Session, do we?
Mike has volunteered to cook.
I believe we'll dodge that.
You.
Okay. Okay.
Is it off agenda?
You vote?
Yeah, I will. Absolutely.
Just check.
Furnish the meat. He said you doing hot dogs.
What we just went through, but I'll talk to you about it for the next meeting. Is there a need for executive session anyone knows of?
What was the question?
Is there a need for executive session, does anyone know of? I don't know of a reason for it. Okay, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.